she survived. She survived all of that, despite all the trauma of her youth. I don't remember her as being bitter or resentful at all. What she did was she made baskets. And she told her story anytime she could. She was taught basketry, by the way, from a woman from the Ottawa tribe. There was a church meeting. This woman was there, and she motioned to my grandmother to follow her in the woods. Well, my grandmother was a little hesitant because she was carrying an axe. I guess I would be too. But she followed her, and they found a black ash tree. She chopped it down, and eventually they would drag that log out of the woods. They would prepare it. They began to take the splint off, peeled the splint, and they started to weave the baskets. This was all new to my grandmother because Ojibwe women didn't make black ash baskets. What kind of baskets did they make?
Birch bark.
Birch bark. Everything was made from birch bark. So this was new for my grandmother. In her early years, she said that she would use these baskets, these old things, to carry wild rice, to where you put fresh picked berries. She colored her splint. You can still see some of the colors when you open them up, even though this is really old. She colored her splint with things that she would find in the woods. Natural dyes. Blackberry, bloodroot, blueberry, sumac, chokecherry. She continued to make her baskets well into her 80s. And she shared her artistry and taught her family. Her daughter and her son also made baskets. And in turn, she taught my father how to make baskets. And he taught his son. And his son taught his son. And that continues today. I think that a part of me being an artist, a big part of that is to tell this story. That's my responsibility, to tell this story. And anytime I can. If it takes me painting and creating, and I can share this story, I'll take any opportunity to do that. Because I think that's why I'm here. Maybe that's my purpose. To share that with you, to tell that story to you so you don't forget. Today, there's a lot of research on historical trauma. And they're realizing that descendants of Native people, even though they have not experienced major traumatic events in their life, that trauma still is manifested in their life in some way, shape, or form. Oftentimes you'll see it as depression, anxiety, PTSD, alcoholism, drug abuse, sexual abuse, suicide. These are things that we deal with on a daily basis on our reservation. You know, we can't We can't undo my grandmother's story. We can't undo that. But we can remember her resilience. We can heal. We can heal. Because remember, we're still here. We're still here. Dr. Maria Yellowhorse Braveheart is the one who coined the phrase historical trauma, and she says, I had a sense of carrying grief that was larger than myself and my community. And I made a conscious connection that American Indians are survivors and that we share things in common with the Jewish Holocaust communities. Trauma today. Family patterns of dysfunction continue. Remember that process, what was removed, that connection with your family was broken, with the boarding schools, and the connection with your community and your tribe was broken. We're still experiencing things today on the reservation and families. The families are not all put back together again. But some things are changing. And Dr. Braveheart says there is a long history that precedes it, this trauma. And there is a reason why we are the way we are. There is a reason. In our community, there is healing happening. There really is. It's a long road. But the healing in our community is starting to look like people telling their story. Here we go again. Tell that story. Tell your story of the trauma that you've been in. That's a part of that healing process. Become a part of the community circle. Reach out for help. Practice your cultural ways. That's coming back in our community. The cultural ways and ceremonies are back in our community. The language is coming back. And what that does is puts together that person's identity. Renewal and healing can come from finding yourself in your culture. We're still here. I want you to remember tonight my grandmother's resilience as she survived. Remember, she wasn't bitter or angry. But it was important for her to tell her story. Very important for her to tell her story.